What's up, superhero fans? Welcome back. Today we need to talk about The Boys Season 5, because with only 2 episodes left, this show has officially entered chaos mode. And honestly, at this point the situation is so insanely complicated that it's hard to imagine how the writers are going to wrap everything up without the finale feeling rushed. Because this season didn't just set up one ending. It set up multiple endgames, all happening at the same time. We've got Homelander becoming practically unstoppable, Butcher running out of options, Soldier Boy acting completely unpredictable, Ryan missing during the most important moment of the story, Gen V characters disappearing from the battlefield, political takeover teases, betrayals, hidden agendas. There's just so much happening right now. So before the final 2 episodes drop, let's break down the biggest unanswered questions and the major plot lines that absolutely need payoff before this season ends. Starting with episode 6 ending, because that moment completely changed everything. The second Soldier Boy handed Homelander the V1 serum and Homelander injected himself. The entire balance of power shifted. And that scene where Homelander flies up and fires his lasers into the sky, that wasn't just a power flex. That was basically a declaration that nobody can stop him anymore. And the craziest part is Butcher's reaction. Butcher, the guy who never backs down, sees what Homelander has become and literally says one word: run. That alone tells you how hopeless the situation has become. If Butcher thinks there's no immediate solution, then things are officially out of control. Up until now, it seemed like the boys' final plan was obviously going to involve the virus, especially after all the setup from Gen V. But now V1 changes everything. However, there's one very important detail people are forgetting. V1 doesn't make someone completely immune. When Soldier Boy got infected by the virus earlier, it temporarily dropped him. For a brief moment, he looked almost dead, which means theoretically, if the boys can somehow infect Homelander with the virus, even temporarily, that could create a tiny opening to contain him. And that brings us to the next massive setup, enriched uranium. Episode 4 basically confirmed that enriched uranium functions like Homelander's version of kryptonite. It's one of the only substances capable of actually penetrating his skin. Everything else has failed, but this got a reaction. Now obviously, uranium is deadly for regular humans too, but someone could potentially use it long enough for a sacrifice play. And that's where things get really interesting. Because Butcher and already know about this weakness. At the end of episode 4, Butcher watched footage showing Soldier Boy being experimented on with enriched uranium. That scene wasn't random. The writers included that for a reason. Which makes me think Butcher and may already be planning something behind the scenes. Maybe they've secretly gone back to Fort Harmony to recover more uranium. Maybe the finale becomes a suicide mission where someone willingly sacrifices themselves just to weaken Homelander enough for the others to finish the job. Now let's talk about the biggest missing piece in the entire season. Ryan. The show has spent years building Ryan up as one of the most important future players in this universe. He has powers almost identical to Homelander: flight, laser vision, insane strength, and yet during the biggest crisis imaginable, he's completely absent. That feels intentional. Even if Ryan can't fully defeat Homelander, he could absolutely hold off other supes, or at least damage Homelander emotionally and physically. So where is he? My guess? The writers are saving him for a massive late-game moment. Either a cliffhanger at the end of episode 7, or the emotional centerpiece of the finale itself. And honestly, Ryan might be the only person Homelander still cares about on some level, which makes him incredibly dangerous. Now let's move to Soldier Boy, because his behavior this season has been unbelievably strange. Back in Season 3, Soldier Boy was fully prepared to kill Homelander. But now, he gives him V1 and basically turns him into an immortal god. That is not a small character shift. So the question becomes, what's Soldier Boy's actual endgame here? Does he genuinely want to stand beside Homelander and rule the world together? Or is there some hidden plan we still don't understand? Because right now it feels like we're only seeing the surface level of what's really going on. And with a character this important, there's no way the writers made him switch sides without a deeper reason. Another huge issue is the absence of the Gen V characters, especially Marie. The show spent so much time establishing how insanely powerful she is. Marie can literally manipulate blood inside the human body. Theoretically, she could stop hearts, destroy people internally, maybe even interfere with Compound V itself. So why isn't she on the front lines? That's honestly starting to feel suspicious. But there's also another possibility. What if Marie's powers become important after someone dies? Imagine if a major character gets killed in the finale, only for Marie to somehow revive or stabilize them using blood manipulation. That could become one of the season's biggest twists if handled correctly. Now let's talk about Queen Maeve. At this point, it feels unlikely she returns for a major battle role. but I could definitely see an emotional cameo happening, especially with Starlight. A final conversation. One last push of motivation before the war begins. And then there's Homelander's divine visions. At first, it felt like manipulation, like someone was messing with him psychologically. But now it's unclear whether these visions are real, symbolic, or signs of a complete mental collapse. And honestly, that storyline needs clarification before the finale ends. Because if Homelander truly believes he's chosen or godlike, then he becomes even more dangerous than before. Now here's the biggest theory of all. What if Homelander kills the president? The trailers show him sitting inside the Oval Office, and that feels way too deliberate to ignore. Homelander doesn't just want power anymore. He wants control of the entire system. If he takes political control too, then he basically becomes the ruler of America. And after that, global domination is just the next step. At the same time, we still don't know what Stan Edgar is planning. And let's be real, Stan Edgar has never been a straightforward character. There's no way he doesn't have some kind of backup strategy prepared. Even with Homelander becoming nearly unstoppable, Edgar probably still has cards left to play. And finally, Sister Sage. We now know she was secretly working against Homelander, which means she's no longer safe around him. So the obvious move would be joining the boys. But can she actually be trusted? Or is she setting everyone up for one final betrayal at the worst possible moment? That's still one of the biggest unanswered questions heading into the finale. Also, small detail, but really interesting. Why did Homelander spare the legend? At this point, Homelander has been killing people without hesitation, but he let the legend live. And honestly, I think it's because the legend wasn't afraid of him. Homelander is weirdly drawn toward people who don't fear him. That scene gave us a rare glimpse of the tiny remaining piece of humanity still buried inside him. So yeah, guys, there are still so many open plot threads, and only 2 episodes left to resolve all of them. Can the writers actually stick the landing? Will the finale feel satisfying? Or is the story simply too massive to wrap up cleanly? Let me know your theories in the comments. How do you think Homelander gets defeated? Does Ryan become the key to everything? Is Soldier Boy secretly planning something bigger? And which character do you think is most likely to die before the season ends? Drop all your thoughts below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more daily superhero content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.